and very good afternoon to everyone. Uh, Before I jump onto my introduction, Saoud, it's an absolute delight to be here. I'm truly honored. It has always been a pleasure staying in touch with you and see you growing all these years. So thank you for having me here. Uh, it is extremely. I'm really glad to see all and to see you here and getting this opportunity to speak to you guys. A quick introduction about myself. I've been working for almost 20 years now. My professional uh, uh, term would only be for 18 years though, but I started working early in 2000. Uh, I started with BPOs, have been a part of outsourcing since then, worked with different industries, telecom, insurance, utilities, etc. Uh, in between, I've also participated in trainings. Sales, service delivery, and operations has been my expertise, my humble forte. Uh, so that's about me. The subject of the session is walk through time, because I think time is the only thing that we can. It's truly indispensable, and basis that we share our experiences that can help each other grow, evolve, uh, again over a period of time, eventually and gradually. So I'll be happy if I can add a bit of a value in your life. But more or less, I also had my mentors. I've also been in touch with industry leaders who helped me grow and become a person that I am today.
If anybody has any question on the introduction, please ask. Else we'll have a Q&A session towards the end of the session. So I think Gautam sir, you can start, and we will take questions later on. If anybody has any question while he is speaking, please type your question in the chat box.
So my understanding is that anyone who has joined in here, most of them are working with you. Is that correct?
Yes, most of them. There are
Okay.
my teammates as well are there from my team. So yeah, there are students,
So
there are corporate people, there are people from even family, so from different fields and backgrounds.
So, Saul, to begin with, I would like to know it from you. Um, what's that one thing that bothers you the most, or all this 10 years or 11 years that you've spent in the industry? Basis that, what has been your learning that you would like to see? Any area that you would like to your team or people around you see growing?
So see, there have been a lot of things that I have focused on, but one thing that I feel is essential for anyone's growth is the humility, without which one cannot go far. So I think that is one thing that I feel is should be the integral part of anyone's professional life. Because if you don't have humility, I don't think one can go very far. So that has been one thing. Besides that, there are many other things like honesty, trust, transparency. Um, all of these things have been integral part of my professional life. Another thing is that continuous learning, and how do I keep myself active? How do I keep myself saleable in the market? That has been one focus that I have. And another thing is that no matter what I do in my life or what I have done in my life, uh, one thing that I think is most important is the people. No matter how technology emerges, where we reach in the next 10 years, 20 years, or 50 years, but without people, whether you're successful or you fail, nothing matters. So people is the most important thing I would say in anyone's life that I have been focusing on.
Fantastic. That's right. So I would start by saying that everything starts from that first dream that start, uh, we think of achieving. It could be as small as buying yourself a motorcycle when you're in your college days, or it could be that fancy dress that you watched that you saw at the shop and you wanted to buy but you couldn't because it was pretty expensive, or it could be stepping on that ladder to success. It all starts from the dream. There are times when it's initially it's not you who starts dreaming, it is someone else's dream, but eventually it becomes yours. And then over a period of time, we start meeting people, we start experiencing things, we start learning things from them, we start looking up to them because of one or other reasons. In a way, they start motivating us. And eventually, we see ourselves growing and walking that path. And I mean, for an example, we have heard so many stories, whether it is Warren Buffett or it is the Microsoft chief. It could be it could be anyone. It could be Jeff Bezos. It could be Narendra Modi. It could be anyone. But there's so many success stories. And every time we look at those people, we wonder, how did this start? So they started, they kept dreaming, and they kept walking and they kept dreaming. And one fine day they realized that they have reached where they wanted to. But all of this is nothing without working in tandem with the people who keep uh, helping us, assisting us in the journey. So here, since it is a big team that I see, all of you working with a big e-commerce giant, I would rather focus on team management and people management rather. So the most interesting thing that I've experienced in my tenure all this while, whether it was the NGOs that I worked with before stepping in the corporate world, or whether it was a training environment or any other company, I, dreaming is still easy. I think the most difficult is people management because the kind of people that we start working with, and every person is different. We know the thumb rule, all five fingers, they have their own role. One of them, one of these could uh, look smaller in size, but then it has its own efficacy and it plays a role as and when required. So is a team. When we're looking at the team, when we look at the people, we work with people. I have worked with people from all groups, from all caste, creed, sex, religions. And having said that, it has been a wonderful journey so far. Considering the kind of learnings that I had, even now, even now when I'm comparatively working with a smaller team uh, to what I was working almost like 3 years, 5 years ago, I had a far bigger team, 200 people, 250 people. Now I'm just working with a team size of 20, approximately 20. But the learning hasn't stopped. So what really happens? What is the biggest challenge of people management? To me, I think it's the emotion. Every person, every individual, whether it's 18 or late 30s or early 50s, comes with some baggage, with some perspective, with an opinion. And when we start working in a team, it becomes, for the leader especially, it becomes of utmost importance to entertain, to make sure that that emotion is being respected. But let's not forget that it's vice versa. It's always give and take, whether it's an organization and an employee or a family, mother, father, husband, wife, kids, any relationship, it is always give and take. So it starts from me, it starts from you, it starts from the I. So emotion, as I said, has played the most trickiest part in my journey so far. And I realize it has never been easy, especially when you're working with a group of people who have their own perspective, who have their own opinions about everything that we do in the daily life. Having said that, I would like to know, Saud, what has been your experience, or anyone here?
Hello, Gautam sir. That was very nice. I was listening to your point. So, talking about people management, I have been in the professional industry for the last 4 years. So, I am relatively a fresh guy only, and I'm currently working with Ernest and Young UI in Gurgaon, New Delhi. So, um, amid this lockdown period, I don't know whether this has been noticed in different companies as well or not, but over here, there has been a lot of micromanagement, and I have been seeing that the higher management doesn't always trust their employees, and I don't know what kind of people management is this, but I want to gain some insights from you regarding this. Is this practice? How would this practice affect the employee in the long run? Well, I mean, not trusting the employee, not giving him enough time, things like that.
All right, I guess I was talking to
Eman.
Eamon. All right,
Yes.
great, Eamon. Nice knowing you here. Um, so, Eamon, I have spoken to people in the past, and I still see there is a big gap. There is a big void uh, between, and especially when the organization size is big. So there is always a void between, and that is communication between people, between groups, between what you call as senior management, lower management, etc., which in my words is nothing but a prejudice, right? The moment you create a group or a layer, I think it's prejudice. So it's not just related to religions, etc. Anyway, getting back to your point. So, Eamon, there are two ways of looking at it. Uh, you said micromanagement. Now, if we you said it's been just 4 years that you're working in this industry. So we need to understand uh, the kind of times that you're living in. I'm not really sure your experience, is it based uh, on the last 6 months or is it the last 4 years that you've experienced? But the higher you go the ladder, your responsibility, your credibility, uh, and the transparency, it goes, broader. It becomes wide open for anyone to comment, and so you become pretty critical in your role, and hence there are certain things that has to be looked into from all the aspects. So a leader's job, it is very commonly, most of the time I've also heard people saying, including my leaders, that one should not get into micromanagement, especially after you've attained a certain level or a position, or depending on the kind of profile that you're taking care of. But I guess more or less it is important. Uh, just to quickly share something here with you, Aman, the best example of people management, operation management, micromanagement, or macro management I have witnessed in my life is from that small place where you take care of your cattles, buffaloes, typically dairies, where you at times go and fetch milk. If you look at those people, the trend is they usually wake up at 3:30 in the morning. They'll start taking care of their uh, pets, as in cattles. They'll make sure they feed them by 6 o'clock, 6:30, and then by 7 o'clock they're ready to start serving the community. And then their day gets over by 6:30 or 7ish in the evening. Post which they would sit down, they will have their dinner, a very common meal, and right after that they'll play some music as well. This is my personal experience. So I've grown up in a small place, not really small, but a place like Meerut, if some of you would be aware of it. It's not really far off from Delhi. So the place where I was living, right behind my home, there was this small dairy, and they were taking care of around 25, 30 cattle every day and serving the community around me. So the best lessons I saw and I learned from them is how they have been doing it all through the day, working extremely hard, making sure they serve the community, earning their bread and butter, and at the same time, not they do not forget to enjoy playing that music and singing those songs late in the night, irrespective whether it's a summer or a winter. So, and when you look at them from a broader perspective, you would see that they're into both macro and micro. So at every level, whether it is, I think, the CEO of the company, he also gets into micromanagement. Trust is is a different question. It depends on how you're looking at the other person, and I think it comes from it. It's again a two-way traffic. Uh, Again, one of my experiences, maybe this would help you a bit. There have been times when I joined an organization, and it happens with almost everyone. When we join a new organization, and there is someone in your team who starts bullying you, or who would not listen to you, or who would have his own concepts, and he would try to argue with you on everything and anything and everything. So I realized the best way to make sure they start trusting you, they get close to you and start looking up to you, is when you start sharing feedback with them, or once you start giving them what they're looking for or what you are looking for. So if I'm looking for trust, if I'm looking for respect, I rather I would rather start trusting that person before expecting him to trust me. It has to be give before I ask for anything. That has been my learning and my experience so far. I hope that helps you.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
And just to add, Gautam sir, based on my little experience with people, um, it is also equally important to understand the real meaning of micro and macro management. Um, I think I would say 2 years ago, I was having a session with my team wherein the score for this question, micromanagement, was very poor. So we had a team connect wherein I asked this question for people: what is your understanding about micromanagement? And trust me, almost all of them had a very different understanding about micromanagement, which had nothing to do with micromanagement, right? So that is what I would suggest from my end. Try to understand the meaning of micromanagement, and of course, there are certain things which come with time.
That is correct, because there is always a difference between experience, reality, and facts. All of this is completely based on your own experience. All of this is completely based on the kind of upbringing you had, the kind of background you had, the kind of academics, the kind of experiences you have been through your life. So we are what we have actually made up of throughout this journey so far. So Pranav has asked, when it comes to emotion control, how you handle people as a group or as an individual. In the corporate life, the time we get is so less. How you analyze them and figure a plan for each one to be better on the next day. Okay, that's a fantastic question, Pranav. Thank you. Uh, so the first thing that we all need to understand, and we all need to work on, uh, is that we cannot control anyone. The word control is the biggest problem that we have in our lives. And since the decade, the era that we have born in, everything has been controlled remotely, whether it's a television or a music system or your car now. Uh, we are so desperate. We're living in desperate times, and that is why we want to control everything. And so is the emotion. Emotion cannot be controlled. You are what you are. However, what we can do is we can keep a track of it. So for a leader, or for anyone for that matter, here a leader is every individual who's leading his life. Uh, all you need to do is you need to track those moments, those situations when you go out of control. Now, being out of control is not necessarily crying or being aggressive. It could be anything. Out of control could be when you're watching your favorite movie, and or maybe you want to watch your favorite movie and you know that there is something else that needs to be entertained on Friday, and you get a little cribby or a little cranky like kids. That's number one. Number two is you need to be natural when you're dealing with people. But at the same time, you also need to give them a benefit of doubt. So, what happens being human, we are very prone to judge people. I mean, it's in our blood. 99% of us, we start judging people the moment we look at them or the moment we would hear someone doing something. Reading the newspapers, looking at the media, start making our own judgments. So, no judgments at all. If you find someone doing something wrong or who has a different opinion, give them a benefit of doubt. Tell yourself that they're a human too, and they have a right to have their own opinions. Third, uh, Pranav, we cannot have a plan to execute. The only thing that I have done in my life is when I saw that there is some challenge within the team or with some people around me, I tried to uh, work out. Uh, yeah. So what I tried to do is I tried to find ways in which I can express my gratitude. That's number one. And number two is how can I uh, get rid of this divide between the two of us? What can I do to make him feel special, him or her? Not even once in my life I have failed so far, and I can say that very humbly. Uh, So I have always lived by the motto that I should not give up on people, no matter what happens. There have been times extremely challenging when you're completely frustrated, but that happens with all of us. But the only plan that I followed is follow my instincts and follow the rule that the thumb rule that everything will be fine. It's just a matter of time. He has an emotion, you have an emotion. We just need to work it out. Okay, that's Ritu. Okay.
Yeah.
So Ritu has asked, we all aspire to become leaders one day, as they say. With power comes responsibility. When one aspires to become a leader, there are certain touch decisions that one has to take in terms of balancing out between one's growth and the team's growth as a whole. Is executing this balance as difficult as it seems? The answer is yes, and at the same time, it's no. So Ritu primarily depends on the person who you are. What are you looking at? Um, Balancing the equation between growth, your own growth and your team's growth is is as difficult as balancing life. Most of us, anyone who's married, I'm not really sure how many of you have kids and have families, but most of us, even if you're single, it becomes extremely difficult to manage your working hours and working out, going out with your friends, because they would have certain expectations from you, your family would have certain expectations from you, and the company also has certain expectations from you. So if you have a leader who's asking you or who has certain things and he expects you to deliver, he's actually not really expecting much. He's just working that thin line that the company has asked him to. His job is to make sure that it gets delivered. When it comes to your question, everyone aspires to be a leader. uh, I think you are a leader if you are a leader. Leader are born. I absolutely believe in this. Leader are born, and more or less. So that's how it is, and it is definite. It's not easy. At the same time, it's not difficult either to maintain that equilibrium. All you need to do is you need to start understanding before you start questioning someone. And when we start questioning someone, there is another important concept of mutual respect that we need to abide to. Because most of the time, uh, in corporates, I haven't seen much, but I do have people around me who believe in this, and very few people who actually stick to it. So it's easy to say that I respect you, and there's a lot of mutual respect. However, mutual respect is something when, for example, if Saoud has a point of view and I have a point of view which is different from Saoud's, and we still respect each other. We still hang around hand in hand, making sure that his point of view is his, mine is mine, based on our experiences. So what if we do not meet or do not have a common ground? But uh, our experiences, our opinions should not uh, uh, soar our relationships.
I have no follow-up question, but he is. I mean, I just want to say that he has rightly mentioned that leaders are born, and because either you have it in you or you don't. I mean, either you have a leadership quality in you. I mean, I also feel the same that you can develop over the period of time a few of the factors that make you a leader, but either you, I mean, whether you want to be a leader or not, that feeling itself, I think it's either in you or not in you. So thank you for answering answering my question. And I just want to take this opportunity that I'm glad that I could have a interaction with you. Thank you.
Ritu, it's an absolute pleasure. I'd just like to add one more thing here. Uh, since we're talking about leadership, my question to all of you, and I have often asked this to myself, why do we want to become a leader? Why a leader all the time? What is so big about being a leader? Why can't we just, not necessarily all of us are leaders, but there is nothing wrong being a follower. There is nothing wrong if you're not a leader. A leader is made up of people like us. At the same time, a leader would not exist if the followers won't exist. In the absence of followers, there is no leader. So be happy uh, with who you are, whether you are a leader or you're not. Doesn't really matter, because the other fact which could be a little bitter is that we all are actually leaders, and I mean it. Any lady who has been running her taking care of the family, taking care of kids, is being a leader in itself. We do not realize our mothers are, have been, and will remain the best leaders ever, because they knew how to draw a line. At the same time, they always knew how to balance that equation between being strict and being compassionate.
Does anyone have any last question, or if anybody would like to add anything, please feel free to do it.
Hi everyone. Uh,
Hi,
my name
Jatin.
is Jatin. Hi Saoud. Hi Gautam sir. Hi everyone. So I have just one question. Like I was just going through the Gautam sir's profile, and I have seen that he has been working and he has a key knowledge of telecommunication companies and all. So recently I have joined a telecommunication company which is Cold Technologies, and I have a few questions regarding that, like what are the aspects and what are the uh, expectation of an telecommunication company if you are working with, and what actually pretty much easier goals to achieve in this form, because I've been working in retail business services in Amazon before this company. So now the operations has totally changed. I was working in operations, and now I'm working in network operations. So, Gautam sir, can you please elaborate this, or you can give a bit of this knowledge how we can achieve our goals in network operation or in telecommunication company? Over to you, sir.
Hi, Jyotin. Uh, very interesting question. The answer won't be that simple considering the current situation across the country. We know how telecom industry has been in the last decade. Uh, and when you said network, I guess you're in the IT side of the business. Is that what you meant?
No, sir. Actually, I am from. I am actually working as engineer. The designation is engineer, but I am dealing with the vendors from Germany. So I actually take care of German network marketplace.
See, as I see, there is a lot of competition right now. as everyone would have noticed. It's right there in the newspapers almost every day. There's a lot of competition, and uh, telecom hasn't really um achieved that state that we expected almost like 20 years ago. So when this mobiles came in picture way back in 2000, late 90s and early 2000, everyone thought that this is going to be the next big thing, and it did to an extent. But the way we have seen it growing, evolving every day. I mean, imagine we used to talk about value added services, and right now we are stuck to data. And data is everything, data is king. So when I heard this statement almost 10 years ago, I did not believe it. I was working with the market research for telecom at that point in time, and I was quite surprised when they said data will be the next king. I mean, I couldn't digest it. But everything was about value added services, and for good 5 6 years I think everything was based on value added services. Telecom operators minted money. They made a lot of money out of these services. Imagine the dialer tone. uh, uh, some people still use it, right? And I know the person, I worked with him very closely, who actually discovered and got this idea in India. He associated himself with India Times, and that's how they got 8888, if you remember. That's how we used to download dialer tones then. So that was
Yeah.
again a part of value-added services. So the market is still evolving, and there's still a lot of uncertainty. Uh, if you're working with the telecom right now, fantastic. But make sure that you know the pros and cons, and the direction it's moving on. So that's my only suggestion at the moment.
Thank you so much, sir.
And just to
Um,
add, Gautam sir, although we are overshot by 5 minutes, we have fortunately an expert of the telecom, Javed Siddiqui bhai. He's vice president for working with ABB right now, and he has been in telecom
Amazing.
for about 25 years now. So I will request him
Fantastic.
sometimes to give another session. So yeah,
For
thank you so
sure.
much.
For sure.
Yeah.
So I think Jatin,
Sure, sure.
you've got Mr. Javed Siddiqui who can answer all your questions in detail.
Yeah.
Uh,
So
Mr.
let's
Siddiqui,
connect. Let's connect some other time, Jatin. And I
For sure,
definitely
sir.
understand the question where it is coming from. And I myself have changed telecom industry, which Mr. Gautam was talking about. And but definitely there is, of course, there is a growth. There is a business expected in telecom area, and I would see, maybe based on my limited experience, that there are differences between the two, the telecom and the retail, and it has its own nuances. Of course, at the bottom or the heart of it, there are some common things for the customer. So we can talk about that later in detail, since
For
we are
sure, sir.
already overshot.
So Jayati, I will
Definitely.
reach
I would
out to you
request
for a
Saood sir to.
session. Yeah, Jatin, definitely. I will. I was actually in touch with Javed bhai for a session, but he's been
Okay.
quite caught up with things. He's recently joined ABB, so and due to lockdown and all, so he has agreed to do a session in some days. So probably in a
Sure.
week or two time he will do it. I will let you know.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, everyone.
You look at it. Great minds are meeting each other here. Great,
And
wonderful.
thanks a lot, Gautam. I really appreciate the very important point that you touched on. People management was emotional management. I think I'm still learning that part in my journey.
thank you, Javedji.
All right, wonderful. We are overshot by 7 minutes. I think Gautam sir, we promised only for 30 minutes, but once again, thank you very much for sparing time for us. I have learned a lot of things once again. I have made some of the notes, whatever I could from my end. I'm sure people have also learned a lot of things. If anybody has any follow-up question or would like to connect with Gautam sir offline, let me know. I can request you to connect with you as well.
Absolutely, it'll be my pleasure to connect with one and all. Anytime, at any point in time, you have seen my profile on LinkedIn. So if you want to touch base with there, we can do that, or over the phone. I'll be happy to help.
Sure.
Thank you, everyone.
Yeah.
It was a
Thanks
pleasure
very
talking
much.
to all of you.